Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today I have lots and lots of new perfume releases to take you through. These are all the fragrances that have come out in January and February this year. It's always really quiet after Christmas and then lots of them come out, which is what's happened. So I've got loads to take you through. If you're new here, then hello and welcome. I'm all about perfumes. I have hundreds of videos like this on new releases, perfume ranges, perfume notes, so do check out my other videos. I also have my blog, SokiLondon.com, that has detailed articles on whole ranges and the best perfumes for different perfume notes. And there you can also get my fragrances, Empress, Aphrodite, and my super concentrated Soy Wax candles that I make myself. And as always, I'll leave the links in the description box down below to where you can buy all the perfumes I talk about all around the world. Some of them won't be available in every country yet, but I'll update it as and when they are. Cool, so where to start? I think I'm gonna start with my favorite release from so far in 2024, and that is the new My Way Nectar. My Way is a fragrance range which I've really enjoyed since it came out a few years ago. It's from Armani, and they tend to focus on white floral notes of tuberose with a bit of orange blossom and jasmine. In my video I just did on this, I go through the whole range, but this new one, My Way Nectar, I think is my favorite so far. First of all, I love the pink lid, it's super cute. And this is actually a pear perfume, and if you're a regular here, you'll know that I love pear and perfumes. I've been wearing this every day since it arrived. It's got a really thirst-quenching fruity pear opening, and as it settles, it reveals a floral heart, which is very refreshing. That tuberose is a note that I really love, slightly green, fresh, like spring-like. It's not at all musky or like a traditional floral, but the main note is definitely pear. It's an eau de parfum. It's not super strong though. I think it'd be good for spring and summer, or even for layering with other versions of My Way or other fragrances to really add a pear note. But if you're a fan of pear fragrances like me, like Jimmy Choo, like Irresistible Givenchy, then I think you'll love this. I'm really loving it. I'm not sure if it's out in the Americas yet, but when it is, I'll leave the links below. So next up, we have one in the Irresistible Givenchy range. Speaking of them, I think this is the 5th one they've released, and the original is one of my favorites. Again, it has pear with a really like green, refreshing rose note. This new one is called Irresistible Givenchy Very Floral, and it really focuses on that rose note. But there's something about Givenchy perfumes when they do florals in this range, in their previous like Live Irresistible ranges, they always have this really sparkling quality to them, which I really love. I'm a big fan of Givenchy in general. Their fragrances are really good quality. So this one really is like a really modern floral bouquet. You get the rose, there's a touch of iris in here, which really adds to that floral bouquet feeling. But it has a solar note in here, which is a synthetic creation that sort of makes you feel warm, cozy, like the sun shining on you. We have an ombre musk, which is used in a lot of fragrances at the moment. Again, that gives that sort of cashmere, cozy feel. And there's even a hint of blackcurrant and coconut water. I think this would be a really pretty present for anyone that just loves floral fragrances. It doesn't have the fruitiness of the original, it doesn't have the pear note, but it would be a good sort of wedding fragrance, springtime. We have Mother's Day coming up here in the UK in March, and it's a really pretty sort of pink liquid in the bottle. I do love all the range, but I think this one perfectly blends the rose with the iris, whereas the rose velvet one that was released last year was very powdery and irisy. I wasn't as much of a fan, and the two eau de toilettes I found to be too light. The original is still my favorite, but this is my second favorite, the Very Floral. So next up, super hotly anticipated, is the new Myst Parfum. Again, in my video, I explained the entire Myst range. It's very complex. It's been around for a long time with many different versions that have come and gone over the years. It started out this modern range with Myst Cherie, which was one of my favorite perfumes as a teenager quite a while ago, because it had this this strawberry top note in, along with a rose heart patchouli base, which is sort of signature of the range. It then became Myst Dior Parfum, and then Myst Dior Parfum was relaunched in 2021, and they totally changed it to a sort of very light lily, totally different to the original Myst Dior Cherie. I then created my Empress perfume, which is the same notes as Myst Dior Cherie, very similar, with that strawberry opening. This new one, Myst Dior Parfum, really does have echoes of the old Myst Dior Cherie with that strawberry opening note. And then it's a sort of classic chypre type fragrance, a little bit like Coco Mademoiselle, but with strawberry, the rose, the patchouli, and there's a hint of amber in here, but I wouldn't class this as an amber fragrance for sure. It is like a lighter version of my Empress, and it's definitely the best in the current range of Myst Dior perfumes, and it's definitely the strongest. It's also the most expensive. I think it is a little bit more concentrated than the others, but it's still not a super strong perfume. You are still going to need to reapply this. But of the whole range, it's definitely the best for lasting. You're probably going to get maybe 4 hours out of this. This was the smallest, which I think is 30 ml, and this was 70 something pounds, I think 78 pounds. So not cheap. You're paying for all the expensive marketing and everything, but it is a beautiful bottle. And if you like Empress, you'll definitely like this. We have a new one in the Valentino Born in Aroma range. This is Green Stravaganza. And this is something a little bit different from Valentino, which I was really pleased to see. The original Born in Aroma is quite successful. It's kind of a fruity jasmine, vanilla. A lot of perfumes have jasmine and vanilla in at the moment. This one really does have a green opening note with a tea leaf note. Specifically, it's Lapsang Souchong tea. And it really gives a refreshing green spring-like opening, which is something that we don't see a lot of green fragrances released at the moment. Things like the classic Chanel 19 is super green, some of the Issey Miyake ones. But I was pleased to see that they release something a little bit different to everything else on the market. If you do love that sort of springtime, like going out, smelling the freshly cut grass, like the new buds, like new greenery in the garden, I do recommend this. It is quite light. It's not as strong as the original. And it does have a jasmine and a little bit of vanilla in, but really it's the jasmine and that tea note that really are the main notes. So it's quite calming, a little bit aromatic, very green, and just feels quite lively and refreshing. We have a new version of Paco Rabanne Fame. This is called Fame Intense. It comes in a gold dress, whereas the original is a silver dress. But this 30 ml, they don't put the color on the dress, it's see-through, but normally the bigger sizes are gold. This is a little bit heavier than the original. Original is jasmine and vanilla, quite creamy. It is quite good for lasting, the original, and it has a mango opening note, but that mango note fades very quickly. If you do like mango, then I made a mango note in my Aphrodite that lasts throughout the fragrance. This one doesn't have the mango in. Instead, it goes straight into a creamy vanilla-y sandalwood, and it has a hint of incense, but I wouldn't say this was overly oriental. It's not particularly like incensey, and it's certainly not spicy. And it does have that jasmine in as well. So it feels like what it says on the tin, a stronger version of the original, and it doesn't have any fruitiness in. So if you are a fan of the original, you probably will like this, unless you like the original for its mango opening notes. So it's not massively different. There is also a Le Parfum version that comes in a black bottle, which is also like a heavier version of the original. A new one from Carolina Herrera in their Good Girl range, the iconic shoe-shaped perfume bottles. They came out with Good Girl Blush, I think it was last year, which is a peony and vanilla, quite pretty fragrance. This new one is called Blush Elixir, and it is quite different. It's more along the lines of a chypre fragrance like Myst Dior, like Coco Mademoiselle. We have a citrus opening, and then very quickly you get a rose heart and a patchouli base. There's also quite a lot of ylang ylang in here as well, which really adds to that floral feel. It feels quite classy, it feels quite elegant, everyday, and it isn't particularly sweet. A lot of the other Good Girl fragrances are quite sweet, and to me feel like quite evening, like party, date night fragrances, whereas this, I think you could wear this more during the day, to the office, and it would just give you you like a feminine vibe. It's definitely quite classic. It's like the kind of perfumes that were released maybe 10-15 years ago, like the old like versions of Myst Dior. So I think this will do quite well. It has a little bit better lasting power than Good Girl Blush, which was quite light. Peony is a very light note in that. And then it gets very sweet and vanilla-y, almost like cupcake. Whereas this is just a little bit more elegant, more floral, and that patchouli helps it have lasting power. A new fragrance from Solda Janeiro. These body mists have gone so popular the past few years, and this is something a little bit different from them. They're known for their very sweet, vanilla-y, caramel, nutty fragrances and their creams and body lotions and everything. This one, number 59, as the color suggests, is actually a violet perfume. So that is a slightly powdery scent, kind of like an iris. And it also has vanilla orchid in, which is a note which I really like. It's in the original Calvin Klein Euphoria. So if you like that, I think you'll like this. It really is what it says on the tin, a vanilla-y orchid, sugary floral note. And that really makes this quite feminine. You definitely get the sugariness at first, but as it settles, like after a minute, it really becomes all about this quite powdery violet, which is very calming, very daytime, quite serious, and it doesn't have any of those vanilla or nutty notes that are in the other fragrances. So it's something quite different, and I love this purple color of the bottle as well. These are quite affordable. I think this cost me like £25. A lot of these perfumes are available at Look Fantastic, where you can get up to 25% off with my code LFTF Soki. But yeah, this is like a cute thing. If you like your violet perfumes like Guerlain's Insolence, you'll definitely like this. We have a new one from a Hugo Boss in their The Scent range. It's called the scent Elixir. This is actually the 10th version of the Scent perfumes. And this is quite interesting. It's not what I expected. The original The Scent is a peach perfume with osmanthus, quite fruity. We've then had some more floral, more fresh or more fruity versions, some woody versions. This new one, Elixir, actually uses an ambergris note, spelled ambergris. They don't actually use ambergris anymore. It's because actual ambergris is from something that builds up in the stomach of a sperm whale. Yeah. So it's created like in the lab now, and it's quite musky, almost suede-y and minerally. Reminds me of like a mineral, like a stone. It also has belladonna in, which is a green floral scent, kind of like a bush, like going out in a forest, like the smell of ivy. And then you have this minerally, stony, ambergris, musky base. It feels quite unisex to me. Those two fragrances are quite unisex, and it's just not what I expected. The purple, sort of reddish purple color made me think it might have berries in or something. Very, very different. Something very different to most fragrances that are released these days. Ambergris is something that was used a lot in the 50s and the 60s, but we don't really see it used that much in fragrances at the moment. So something very different. Not to my personal taste. I'm not an ambergris fan, but at least they're trying. I guess when you're on your 10th version of a perfume, you have to really try for something new. We have a new version of Calvin Klein's Euphoria called My Euphoria. This has echoes of the original scent with a orchid note in it, but it has a little bit of a tart blackcurrant, fruity blackcurrant, and then it also has a sesame seed note in, which is actually a really nice perfume note because it makes a fragrance really calming, quite cozy, and kind of like a hug. There's also a sandalwood in here as well, which again is quite a cozy, warming scent. So to me, this feels like a sort of cozier version of the original Euphoria. So if you like that, I think you'll like this. These Calvin Klein perfumes tend to be much more affordable than a lot of designer fragrances. So if you're looking for something everyday for work or something, this could be a nice option. We have a new release from Estee Lauder called their Legacy Collection. I have them here in 5 miniatures. These are reimagined versions of original OG Estee Lauder fragrances, Private Collection, Knowing, Azure, Estee, and White Linen. So these are all fragrances from like 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s that have been around for a really long time, and they've reimagined them. They've used Frederic Malle, who is a big name in the perfume industry. He has his own range of fragrances, which he actually sold to Estee Lauder about 8 years ago. And these are twists on the original. So if you you are a fan of the original versions of these could be a nice way to try a different twist on it. They've just simplified the fragrances, got rid of some of the more dated perfume notes that are in there, like coriander, and just made them all quite clean and a little bit more simple and modern, but they still very much have those classical Estee Lauder notes in them. They still feel kind of like the original fragrances. They are said to all be unisex. They just come in 100ml sizes, which are £250. So they're not cheap, but I think if you know someone that like has always worn Private Collection or always worn white linen, it could be nice to gift them the new legacy version of it. And then lastly, we have two from Oscar de la Renta. I think these have been out in the US for a little bit, but they've just become available here in the UK. Oscar de la Renta Bella Tropical is a really fun tropical fragrance. It opens with pineapple. Then we've got Ylang Ylang Coconut Orange Blossom. Really reminds me of La Vie Belle Soleil Crystal from Lancome, but it's not as strong. And as it fades, it becomes a oceanic fragrance. So you get the smell of the sea, driftwood, that very clean smell of like being on the coast and smelling the sea. So it's a real fragrance that has quite a journey, goes from pineapple, then becomes floral, ylang ylang, and lastly it ends up being this very clean sea scent. So it does feel like being on a desert island somewhere. Is definitely an appropriately named fragrance. These are quite affordable as well. You can get them on Amazon. I think this 30ml cost me about £25. We also have Oscar de la Renta Bella Bouquet in this blue bottle. This is more of a classical everyday floral. We've got magnolia in here, jasmine, iris, and some green notes of bamboo, green tea. So it's kind of like mixing Elizabeth Arden green tea with a sort of typical musky floral fragrance. If you know someone likes floral fragrances, this is probably quite a safe blind buy. They're quite an affordable gift, and it has echoes of Bella Blanca. I think that was the first one in the range. Not particularly original, but quite safe. That's kind of what you want from something quite affordable, whereas the tropical one is just something a little bit more different. Cool, so those are all the new releases I've managed to get my hands on. I know there are lots of other new releases coming up, which I'll try to get, and I'll be doing dedicated videos on them, and of course my monthly rundown as well next month in March. Let me know if you've tried any of these. What do you think? Which is your favorite? All the links will be down below in the description, and do let me know your thoughts in the comments. I do read all your comments. But that's it, guys. So thanks so much for watching as always, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.